Good morning, everyone. Today's the 19th of October. It's Thursday. I hope you're having a good week so far. Well, today we're going to be looking at a chapter in the Bible that had a tremendous impact on me. In fact, the key verse that we're going to look at is the 37th verse of John 6. I remember the first time I read this verse, it blew me away because it was not what I was taught as a child coming up. It says, "All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out." The first part of the verse is what really got my attention. All that the Father hath given me shall come to me. You know, the way my mind worked was, well, have I been given to him by the Father? And the other thing that crossed my mind pretty immediately was, wow, all must not be given to him. That's why they don't come to him. All must not be given to him. Well, that's why I've entitled this chapter 6, Election. Being given to Christ by the Father is election. I heard a message one time that was talking about this, and he replaced the word election with selection. God selected his people. He selected them. So this chapter is really, really powerful. I'm going to read through it quickly, and then I'm going to make some comments about it because it's a rather lengthy chapter. I mean, this chapter has 71 verses. So I'm going to read through it real quickly, and then I may just make some comments as I go through it, so I don't have to circle back. After these things Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up in the mountain. There he sat with his disciples, and the Passover and feast of the Jews was nigh. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew that what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them that may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon's Peter brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, but what are they among so many? And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. There was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together, and filled 12 baskets with fragments of the 5 barley loaves which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, This is the truth, that prophet that should come into the world. When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain. And when evening was now come, his disciples went down into the sea, and entered into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing nigh into the ship, and they were afraid. But he said unto them, It is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, save the one wherein his disciples were entered, and that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but that his disciples were gone away alone. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias unto the place where they did eat bread, after that the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping, and came to Capernaum, seeking for Jesus. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, whence comest thou hither? Jesus answered them, saying, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do, that we might work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that you believe on him whom ye have sent. I want to stop there and just make a couple comments about that. They ask, What shall we do that we might do the works of God? They were thinking that it was something that they did that would bring about their salvation. And Jesus dispelled this very notion when he said, This is the work of God. This is the work of God, that you believe on him. If you believe on him, it's because God has worked in you to do a will of his own good pleasure. If you believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, this is the work of God. It's not you. They said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. Well, it shows there, again, the origin of faith is not in the will of man. Man does not have a free will. I heard Charles Stanley the other day on a sermon, and he said, we all sort of have a free will. That's the way he put it. We sort of have a free will. No, we don't, Charles Stanley. It's not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but God that showeth mercy. Jesus said unto them, Then they said unto the Lord, Evermore give us this bread. Jesus said unto him, I am the bread of life, that cometh to me. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. Well, we know where believing came from. It was the work of God that we should believe on him, right? But I said unto you that ye also have seen me and believe not. All that the Father given me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. What Christ is saying here is that the only way you're going to come to him, if you've been given to him by the Father, that's the only way you're going to come to him. For I came down from heaven not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that all of which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. Have you ever heard a preacher get up in the pulpit and say, this could be your last chance. You don't waste time. Get right with God. Don't postpone. You might be lost if you don't do something tonight. And on and on and on, The song even say, oh, why not tonight? Why not tonight? Well, Christ said just the opposite. He said, this is the Father's will which has sent me, that all of which he hath given me I should lose nothing. Christ isn't going to lose any one of us because we delayed our decision making, because our decision making is predetermined by God himself. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Well, usually when you teach election, what happens? People retaliate, don't they? What happened? What did the Jews do when they heard this message? It says, then the Jews then murmured at him, because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. They didn't want to accept the fact that he was the way, the truth, and the life. He was stripping them of their power, was he not? That's what he was doing. And they said, is not this Jesus the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he say, I came down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered and said, then murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. Christ is saying the same thing over and over and over again. Here he says, no man can come to me, just as I am, without one plea. Well, Christ says no man can come to me except the Father. Yeah. I surrender all. Well, you can't surrender anything except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. Well, you know, almost persuaded, almost but lost, right? Well, if you're one of Christ, you're not going to be almost persuaded. You're going to be drawn. He says, no man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him. I will raise him up the last day. There's no almost in that. It's an absolute certainty. It is written in the prophets, and shall be all taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. It's not almost persuaded. It's not why not tonight. It's not wasted years. It's not softly and tenderly. He says here that every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man has seen the Father, save he which is of God, he has seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. If you believe on Christ, it's because you've already been given everlasting life. You don't get everlasting life because you make a decision. You've already been given everlasting life, which is what causes you to believe. He goes on and says, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, and I will give for the life of the world. The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? They were looking at everything from a fleshly standpoint. They weren't looking at things from a spiritual standpoint. Then Jesus said, then verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, drink his blood, ye have no life in you. He wasn't promoting cannibalism. He was talking about the spiritual bread, the spiritual manna, the spiritual blood sacrifice of his Son. Whosoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day, for my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father, so that he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is the bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. These things said he in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. Many therefore of his disciples, when they heard this, said, this is a hard saying, who can hear it? Yeah, when you hear the truth, when those who are not given to Christ by the Father hear the truth, it's a hard saying. It's a hard saying. When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said, does this offend you? What if, and you shall see the Son of Man ascend from up where he was before. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. And he said, Therefore I said unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. Well, that's a little bit different message than just as I am. That's a little bit different message than the message of almost persuaded, I would say. That he says, again, no man can come unto me, except it were given him of my Father. There's no almost persuaded in that. No man can come, just as I am. No, therefore no man can come, except it were given him of my Father. That's election. What was the response? From that time many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. They couldn't handle predestination election. They wanted to hold on to something they thought was something they did. They didn't want to give God all the glory in all things. And so it says that many disciples went back and walked no more with him. Then said Jesus unto the 12, Will ye also go away? Then Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. And we believe and are sure that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered them, Have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? Now he's talking about reprobation. Go back to Romans 9. He says that he's the potter, we're the clay. He's created some vessels unto honor and some unto dishonor. Have I not chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for it was he that should betray him, being one of the 12. Well, this chapter is an affirmation of the total sovereignty of God in salvation. And, people don't like it. People want to deny it. People want to replace it with another gospel, a free will gospel. But Christ made it emphatically clear, all that the Father hath given me will come to me, and all that come to me I will in no wise cast out. May the good Lord be with you today is my prayer. God bless.